Alright, so in today's video, what we're going to be doing is taking some time to go over the latest news regarding PlayStation Now. This is a very significant move that Sony has made, and there has been a lot of conversation surrounding it. And so what I wanted to do is not only take some time to go over the information for anybody who may have missed it, but also give my thoughts and opinion on this. And I'm sure, as many of you can gather from the title and the thumbnail, I have a pretty strong stance on this, and I think that there are some things that we do need to acknowledge and address here, because I'm sure many of you, being PlayStation fans, couldn't help but notice that there is a certain group of individuals who have been really screaming this and shouting this from the rooftops and celebrating this more so than it seems they have been celebrating other things. I'll just put it that way. But yeah, we're going to get into this. It says, today Sony announced that PlayStation Now is cutting its price in half, from $20 a month to $10 in the US. Similar price reductions go into effect across other regions and extend across quarterly and annual prepaid subscriptions as well. Additionally, it announced the service has added 4 new games: God of War, Infamous Second Son, Uncharted 4, Thief's End, and Grand Theft Auto 5 that will remain on the service until January, with more marquee games coming thereafter. Why Sony chose today to shine some light on PS Now is no mystery. With Google Stadia set to launch next month and Microsoft's Project xCloud beginning its beta program this month, cloud gaming is stepping into the next phase of its evolution. Sony wants to make sure they give the perception they're not letting the competition get a leg up, says David Cole, CEO of research firm DFC Intelligence. I talk to a lot of investors who don't necessarily know the gaming industry that well, but they see Google as this huge potential threat. Now Sony can say that not only are they not going to lose on pricing, but they have the edge on content. Despite the imminent launch of Stadia, Cole says that cloud gaming is nowhere near posing a threat to the conventional console business. It's not just a question of technological obstacles. Game streaming services have yet to establish a consistent business model. As a result, he says, third-party publishers are pretty eerie. Yet he points to a couple of distinct advantages PS Now has in addition to that 700,000 subscribers edge it enters the fight with. For one, you can download many of the service's games in order to play them directly, skirting the latency issues that can arise when playing a game off a server located miles away. Maybe more importantly, PS Now functions as an add-on rather than a replacement. Sony has their whole ecosystem, he says. You buy hardware and maybe you have streaming on top of it that lets you play when you're not in front of your console or you have your laptop. A standalone streaming service that doesn't have a hardware component is going to have a tough sell. That doesn't mean that PS Now is in the clear. Microsoft's Project xCloud will offer the same benefit to Xbox owners with the additional ability to play on tablets and phones, but it likely has less to fear than the current rush to cloud gaming may imply. But with Sony increasingly clinging to interactive entertainment as its economic driver, it needs to send a signal of strength. Sony stock didn't used to trade on what their games business did, Cole says. Now it's the most profitable part of their business. So I read this specific article. I believe somebody on my Twitter linked it to me. Apologize, I don't have a name to shout out right now, but I appreciate the article. It is a very interesting read, and I wanted to go over this one specifically because I think it really highlights where people need to kind of gauge this, right? They need to pay close attention to what's happening. Now, does this come as a surprise to me? No, it doesn't. I literally talked about earlier this year how Jim Ryan went on record saying that going into next generation with the PlayStation 5, Sony will be doubling down on PlayStation Now. This is, not new information. We didn't really know what that meant. Clearly now we know what that means. The most important thing I can highlight here, because again, there are some individuals who are literally going out of their way to make it seem as though this is the future, and now that Sony has made this move with PlayStation Now, they have no more exclusive games. All of their games are going to PC and whatnot, and it's just absolutely ridiculous to see how some people get over this. And here's the thing. I understand that there are people who enjoy subscription services, and I'm not sitting here trying to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't be able to enjoy. If you're somebody who is subscribed to Game Pass and you love it and you think it's a great value, awesome. That's a really great thing. I have no problem with that. If you're somebody who is really excited about the idea of streaming your games through the cloud to different devices, that's awesome. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But really, I can only speak for myself here on my channel, and you guys know my opinion on this. I don't have any interest in subscription-based services. It doesn't really matter to me how, quote, pro-consumer they come off. To me, as long as I always have the option to support a developer directly for what I believe is quality, more often than not, I'm going to do that because it just not only feels like the right thing to do, but I'm just a believer in paying for quality content. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of getting a great deal as well, but I am also very weary about what the future of subscription-based models and cloud gaming-based models, what that may end up doing to the industry in the long term when it comes to quality. I've been pretty firm in my stance that yes, I do believe that if we were to convert eventually to a fully streaming only or cloud only or whatever, or digital only, not even digital only. We're not even talking about a digital only future. That's not part of this conversation. Basically looking at a subscription only / cloud only future. There's a lot of people who keep telling me that this is the future, right? And that's great. If you want to believe that's the future, by all means, go ahead. The thing is, none of us really actually know what the future is. And we have an analyst here who, definitely is more credible than I am in this area, pretty much letting us know that, listen, these companies, as of right now, other than Google, we're not even talking about Google Stadia because I don't even want to get into that in this conversation, but mainly talking about Sony and Microsoft, entering cloud gaming and starting to make a big push here. We've already seen Microsoft doing it. Now we're seeing Sony doing it. It is a side thing. And the thing is, for me, looking at the way Microsoft has been handling it, it's always come off to me as it's more than just a side thing for them, okay? And that has always been my biggest concern. My biggest concern is that basically Microsoft, over time, seems to have put less and less emphasis on big AAA games, on appealing to the hardcore gamer, on appealing to their core audience. I mean, the most they've done, honestly, if I'm being honest, the most they've done in like the past 3 or 4 years, it seems, in my opinion, is release the Xbox One X. Now, I've given credit where credit is due. It's a fantastic console, and I think it delivers on pretty much all of its promises. It's just the biggest issue is the fact that other than that, everything outside of the Xbox One X has seemingly been there to service a completely different group of gamers and people, and the emphasis has really been placed on that. Now, a lot of people will try to tell you that that's going to change going into next generation, and I hope it does. I've been very hard on Xbox, and I know people really want to push back at me and make it seem like I'm just toxic and I want it to be in the negative, and that's not it at all. I am a gamer. I want great games. You can clearly tell with my excitement for The Last of Us Part 2 that, and how much I've been talking about it on my channel, that I'm a lover of great games, and I love the big AAA games, and Sony's been doing a fantastic job at that. I've been late to the party. I regret being late to the party, but now I see it very clearly, and this is why I can confidently say that Sony is going to continue doing what it does best. The fact that I want to just highlight the big separation here, okay? I know there's going to be people that say, MBG, you're being unfair here. You're giving Sony a pass, but you're not giving Microsoft a pass. And you know what? You are right about that. But I really want you to understand why I'm willing to give Sony a pass and why I am not willing to give Microsoft a pass. Sony has done, in my opinion, for me, again, this is just my opinion, for me, they've done the thing that I want them to do. They have supported their console to the point where it has went on to sell over 100 million units, okay? As somebody who's a fan of console gaming, that's great news in my opinion. It's great to see that console gaming is alive and thriving, and Sony's doing a great job at maintaining that unique experience. They've done a fantastic job in the most important and critical area, and that is the games. And not just a few games here and there. I'm talking consistently delivering on high quality AAA exclusives while also supplementing with the smaller AA games. Even what we're getting this month or in next month, we're getting Concrete Genie in November, and I think we're getting the Medieval remake this month. on top of getting Death Stranding after getting Days Gone earlier this year. Do you see what I'm saying? And then we get to look forward to The Last of Us Part 2 in February. I understand that Sony needs to push for this, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and throw a fit because of it. Not the same way I did towards Xbox. You have to understand the reason why I really threw a fit with Xbox is because it seems to me that they were starting to pursue this without taking care of what, in my opinion, they needed to take care of first, which is your core audience. You focus on the games, you bring out the games, and I understand that a lot of people are going to tell me, MBG, don't worry, the games are coming, but that's not good enough. I do not care how patient you are. I've been patient, and I'm not going to sit back and give Microsoft a pass and say, oh, they're perfectly fine in doing what they're doing because, 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to finally have games to look forward to. Okay, as somebody who's been wanting to Microsoft to see Microsoft do a lot more in the gaming department, in the gaming area, frankly, where they are right now is not good enough. Them buying studios is not good enough. Is it a good start? Of course it is, but it is not good enough. This is something they should have had taken care of years ago, and now they're suffering for it. And this is where the great divide is, and the great separation I referenced earlier is between, frankly, the certain group of individuals who are celebrating this PlayStation Now news as if, look at all you PlayStation fans, you look dumb now, you look like clowns, and it's like, actually, no, we don't. No, we don't. We've been supporting exactly what it is that we've been wanting to support this whole time, and that is console gaming and high-quality games, high-quality exclusives that justify the existence of that console. Now, this is obviously Sony showing that they're willing to be more lenient. I mean, there's no doubt that the biggest game here they're adding is God of War. But we do have to understand that these games, first of all, it's only a small selection, and they are great games, and it is nice that more people will be able to play them, but they are a small selection, and they will be timed for 3 months. Now, I know most people will say, well, 3 months is more than enough time to complete a game like God of War or Uncharted 4 or Infamous Second Son, and you are right. You are right. But the most important thing we have to pay attention to is that Sony is not diving into this head first. And this is the clearest sign that they're going to continue to do what they do best. And what Sony has done best, what they've proven that they do best in the gaming industry is they know how to sell a console. They know how to support a console properly. They know how to create games that make that console very, very appealing in the eyes of many gamers. These are the things that Sony does best, and they're going to continue to do going into next generation. And frankly, these are the exact things that Microsoft does not do best. In fact, I'd say they've had a real struggle this generation with those exact things. So for all of these Xbox fans who are seemingly getting on my case and others as well, I think you guys need to slow your roll and really understand that you can be as right as you want to be or believe you're going to be. You can sit here and celebrate the fact that you called it, right? You called that Sony, even though Sony said it themselves, right? Sony literally said they're doubling down on PlayStation Now. But I mean, if you guys need to believe that you called it before anybody and that you're proving people wrong, by all means, again, just like I said earlier in this video, you do you, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody what they should or shouldn't enjoy. If you're all about subscription services, have at it. If you're all about things like Game Pass and PlayStation Now, have at it. There's nothing wrong with that. For me personally, I know what I like, and I know what brings me to PlayStation. I know exactly why at this point I'm really a big supporter of PlayStation, because they've done a fantastic job at giving me as a hardcore gamer, I like to think of myself as a hardcore gamer who looks for those high quality games, those single player story driven games. They've given me exactly what I want. And I have absolutely no reason to believe that going into next generation with the PlayStation 5 that suddenly, out of nowhere, they're going to stop doing this. They're going to stop making high-quality AAA exclusives. They're going to stop supporting single-player games after many of their single-player games have went on to sell 10+ million units, right? I'm going to believe that a game like Days Gone being single-player only, right? That game now being the 6th best-selling exclusive of all this entire generation for the PS4 in America, I'm going to believe that that's a sign they're going to stop doing this? Absolutely not. Just like this investor, or this analyst, I should say, not investor, pointed out, this is a move for the investors. Sony needs to keep their investors happy, and in order for that to happen, they need to show that they're not going to just let Microsoft or Google or these other companies that are their competition just completely take an entire market without even attempting to fight for it. I mean, who's to say Sony can't end up dominating both? Sony has a certain market on lockdown already, and frankly, it seems like Microsoft kind of gave up on trying to appeal to that market. That is the hardcore gaming market. Sony's been doing it right. They've been seeing the rewards. They've been seeing great profits from the PlayStation division. Just like this said, they rely on the PlayStation division. They've been doing everything right, and there's absolutely no reason, there's no inclination whatsoever that because they're starting to support PlayStation Now more and they're going to be putting a heavier emphasis on PlayStation Now, does not mean that they are going to abandon their core audience, does not mean that they're going to stop making these AAA games, and it certainly does not mean that they are going to suddenly not care about selling PlayStation console hardware. Absolutely not. And the only reason I'm going on this tangent here is because, again, there's been a lot of conversation surrounding this, and frankly, it really gets under my skin when people try to make it sound like I'm being toxic, I'm the one that's trying to be negative, when in reality, I just like to think that I see things for what they really are. There's a reason why Sony gets a pass here and Microsoft doesn't. Sony has been doing a phenomenal job at keeping their core audience happy and satisfied. Microsoft, in my opinion, has not been. So that's just where I'm going to end it here, guys. To end this video, I will say this doesn't mean I'm interested in PlayStation Now and I can't wait to see it expand. Like, no, I don't care about PlayStation Now. I've never really cared about it. I mean, I hope it does well for Sony, but for me, I wouldn't care if it failed, if I'm being honest, because in my opinion, that just means that Sony's going to have to, put all of their emphasis on, in my opinion, what has been working for them, and in my opinion, what matters most to me, which is the console game, gaming aspect side of things, the big AAA games. Sony's going to continue to do what they do best. And part of that means that they're not going to just let the competition steamroll them when it comes to a different market. So, there it is. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please be sure to not only leave your thoughts down below, I'm sure you're already way ahead of me on that one, but leave it a like as well. Lets me know you enjoyed, if you agree with what I have to say here, and if you believe me when I say that Sony is going to continue doing what they do best. And frankly, I hope that pushes Microsoft to do better as well, because that's ultimately all we really want. At the end of the day, we want that healthy competition within the console space. But yeah, leave the video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.